Welcome, friends, Swedish existentialists and lovers of all things bleak and hearers of God's silence, to the Sunday cinematic service. A fun, light-hearted romp through the faith-based cinema. We take today the light-hearted 1963 Bergman comedy Winterlight. As anyone who has actually watched the film will know, is not a light-hearted comedy, but is instead a dour existential dive into the story of a church, a pastor at a failing. There's you see very few actual attendees at his church. He's racked by existential guilt because he hears God's silence, and through the course of a day, the film takes place over sort of a 24-hour period. The beginning of it is the finishing of one sermon, and the end of it is the beginning of the next days. We follow him as he is brought up against the realization that God doesn't exist, life is meaningless, everyone around him is bleak, depressed, and wants to die. The film is made by Ingmar Bergman, probably most famous for The Seventh Seal, Wild Strawberries. Basically, every year he's a Swedish director who made sort of a somber meditation on life, mortality. He's kind of famous for being what people imagine when they hear like the art house. He's been parodied in everything from Bill and Ted's Excellent. What's the second one where they die? Journey. Yeah, Bogus Journey famously has a bit where they play checkers. Where they play what's the Twister with Death? That's a parody of The Seventh Seal. Yep, everyone knows Ingmar Bergman as the self-serious author behind things like Seventh Seal. And yeah, this is the second part of a trilogy of films he made, the Silence trilogy. You've got the one before this is... In fact, is it called In a Scanner? I'll look it up while we're talking. The one after this is called The Silence, so this is sort of the midpoint, and it's the one with the most... The reason why I've chosen to do it, may end up doing all three, as long as I can check Heath's house for nooses first, make sure he's okay to do so. But yeah, this is sort of the most overtly religious one. The main character's a pastor. He actually talks about sort of God's silence overtly throughout the whole film. It's also the shortest one, so possibly the easiest one to get through. But yeah, Winterlight. What did you think of Winterlight?
Gives you the exact feeling of depression the moment you finish it. Like a lot of people sort of think of depression as like just sort of intense sadness or whatever, but this film like nails it. Like you finish watching it and it's just complete emptiness.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I felt when I finished it. I don't know about you.
It is an incredibly bleak film. Yeah. Like, there's so much of it, these long, interrupted close-ups of main actor Gunnar Bjornstrand. Yeah, but it's so many uninterrupted bits where it's just close-ups of him looking like he wants to die.
Yeah, so it's incredibly bleak and dour, but not in a bad way.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, it's obviously the intention of the film.
Yeah.
To elicit that feeling or lack thereof of feeling, but yeah, it's not a easy film to watch. But
I found it incredibly hypnotic though. Like, I wasn't bored or anything watching it. Like,
no, yeah, it was. There were bits though where I thought it was a bit naff.
Yeah, like, I think there's some dated elements just based on sort of the way they've done it. Like, it still has quite like his relationship to the woman who just sort of follows him around and he's waiting for him to renounce the sort of priesthood and become a normal man again, essentially.
Yeah.
That relationship there is dated a bit, I think. Like,
yeah, well, and the bit where she's where he's reading the letter from her, and it's just her sort of doing a monologue, like completely like straight on, square to camera. Yeah, it's just like, oh god, like, and it goes on. This is the other thing, like that you'd think that would be like fairly short, but I think that goes on for about 5 minutes straight or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then like when he finishes, you see why, because there's like 12 pages of the fucking letter. Like,
But yeah, I think that as you say, like there's bits of it that are naff like that, and I think her bits are the weakest bits. But any bits where you've got Max von Sydow playing a depressed fisherman who wants to die,
More like Max von Suicidal. He kills himself.
he does get. Spoiler alert for anyone who's not seen. When all those people who are like, I want my great Bergman content without the hard rigorous work of actually watching the films.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel God's silence while watching the film?
I always feel God's silence.
Yeah.
For a very long time, I've felt God's silence. You don't. You as a devout Christian.
Yeah. As the Christian of the podcast, for balance. I heard him talking to me throughout the film, therefore making it a more interesting watch.
Oh yeah. Oh okay. So was he giving like a running commentary?
Yeah, he was sort of talking about humorous things that happened on the set, like Bergman falling over a banana peel.
Oh okay. Yeah.
Through a Glass Darkly, the one before this.
Okay. All right. Good.
Which is apparently a Bible quote.
All right.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Just from earlier, a little reference to what happened before. But yeah, the acting in it's really great.
Oh yeah. Can't fault it.
Cinematography for what there is. So I know a lot of it is close-ups, but that guy has a great face, Gunnar.
Yeah. It's a lot of close-ups and not a lot of camera movement.
No.
A lot of fixing that thing down and letting whatever's happening on screen happen.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I also think with the film's great whenever it's within the church. Like, there's an amazing shot. I don't know if you... so basically what happened was we were going to record this straight after watching it. Then it was such a brutal experience we decided to put it off.
Yeah. This is about, 5 days after we saw it?
Yeah. But yeah, we... So we put off watching it. And... but yeah, there's a shot in it where it's about maybe 2/3 of the way through. And it's just a close-up of him. Then you see the background change indicating this shift of time. Then he just says... Does he actually say God is dead or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know.
He says a line to indicate that he doesn't believe in God anymore. Great shot. The scene outside of the bit where they find the fisherman's body, that went on for me too long. That felt to me like an like you have the early scene where it's just him going through the motions of doing the sermon. That maybe takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That may be the first 10. That for me is fine. Just because, we need to see this. We need to feel how long it feels for him, and we need to do that.
Yeah.
Why we need to see in real time him going through the body, seeing it, walking around, and...
Yeah. Waiting for someone else to turn up, and then lifting the body into the car, and then... It's like, okay, yeah.
It loses the claustrophobia of it then, yeah. But, despite from the film, which I think is excellent, but, it is so much just an experience to watch and sort of feel... Yeah, the weight of what Bergman is sort of trying to get across.
Yeah.
I thought maybe we'd discuss sort of the stuff around it and why it's sort of so dated in a way because no one makes something like this. Or do you have any specific points about?
No.
We're not like.
I don't have a lot to say about this film apart from what I've already said in regards to the sort of the way it makes you feel the emotions and that sort of thing and I think it's a sort of perfect representation of eliciting a certain response out of an audience.
Yeah.
But if Bergman had have used his powers for good, and for comedy, he could have made some of the best comedic films ever.
He did make a string of comedies.
Oh, yeah.
He started off making comedies. Then he made, The Seventh Seal. And after that, bleak, black and white, I watched one of his films called Cries and Whispers.
All right.
That film is some heavy bleakness. There's a bit in that where... So basically, the plot of that is that it's about three... there's a woman who's dying and her sisters. I think there's 3 sisters and the one dying woman. There's 4 main characters.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them is the lover of another one or something like that. I don't think there's 2 sisters, I think, and another person. But that film is so that's in colour as well, and somehow it becomes even more bleak. I think that has a scene where someone puts some scissors up their vagina as well.
Of course, why not?
Yeah, but I think Bergman though, there's so many great films he's made. Seventh Seal's amazing. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
That has religious themes. Cries and Whispers is amazing. Persona, just great filmmaker.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't watch some of his early comedies. Apparently, they are incredibly naff.
Yeah, I'm glad he's dead.
You're glad he's dead. He only died recently.
Yeah, he knows why.
He knows that. I think he felt God's silence too much.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, what I was going to discuss though is like you couldn't imagine this getting made now, could you? This incredibly serious, like 80-minute sort of you just follow this depressed man as he walks around and about God's like.
I imagine that this would just get absolutely like shit canned. Like, no, I think it'd be like one of those films where it's like, has like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
But like, what do they call it? The box office, the thing where they interview people when they come out of a theater.
Oh, CineScore.
CineScore, yeah. It'd like have a CineScore of like Z. Like they'd have to create a Z rating for it because people would just be like so hateful.
Yeah, people will be like, I was checked out after the first 10 minutes. Boring. Like, yeah.
Well, yeah, but, it's... they're not wrong.
Well, they're not wrong to say that it's quite intense and quite... Well, this is the thing, though. Like, and the reason why you don't get something like this now as well is, like, people don't really do, like, God as a main theme in their lives anymore. Like, to most, modern secular people, like... most people now who are like our age, under would you say under 40 or under 50 are mostly like secular and don't believe.
Yeah, I'd say under 40.
Yeah, I don't think you get people who doubt religion and still keep it as an option anymore. Anyone who doubts religion is an atheist. Quite frankly. Now, anyone who fully believes religion would be like, what's it mean God doesn't exist? Like,
well, you don't think you could potentially do something like this with a priest who runs a more traditional church being like pushed out by like the sort of mega churches and that sort of thing, and seeing them succeed with their crash commercialism and doubting whether God actually exists if the traditional ways don't work and all that works is like these corporate capitalist churches. Like, what is the point anymore?
See, that I think is a different question, though, ultimately.
Yeah.
That is how to deliver. Like, I don't think you get something like this where, somebody is like, they have no material concerns. They just walk around contemplating, like, what is God now? What is, like, is he alive? Like,
yeah.
Like, part, I think, of the film is, like, ostensibly a religious podcast, so, discussion of faith in it. I think it does exist in a world where God is real, but he's not sort of talking to the character anymore or something, like... It seems to be so serious and invested in it. Like, I think... Well, maybe not that. God could not exist within the universe the film is set in. But
yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be one where it's like, why isn't God talking to me? Rather than, why isn't God there? If you know what I mean. Like...
Yeah. I see what you're saying there. I don't think that... I think it was probably more of a realization for him than, like... this is what I got, that it wasn't that he that all of a sudden God stopped talking to him.
Yeah.
It was that the realization that he wasn't, like, basically what he thought was God talking to him wasn't actually God talking to him.
Yeah.
It was just a manifestation of his own mind.
Yeah.
Essentially. And the absence of that sort of has driven him into this
catatonic depression.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's also quite interesting as well. There's never like a specific I hear like a cheaper film that didn't just present it in this kind of like cinema verite style of it's just following him around. Would be like there'd be like an inciting incident to why he doesn't believe in God anymore.
So his wife is dead at the start of it. So a perfect modern day sort of analog of this would be like Signs, the wonderful M. Night Shyamalan film involving aliens and that sort of thing. Because it is essentially about a man, priest, losing his faith in God.
Yeah.
and you know, maybe that's what Shyamalan was like sort of riffing on. Maybe this film is like what he was. Yeah. So yeah, very similar in regards to like he's lost his faith. I suppose in the end of this one, he doesn't regain his faith through alien intervention. But yeah, he for the most part, he does spend the film sort of like wandering around, going, what is God? What is the meaning of life? That sort of thing. All because he lost his wife. So but yeah, that's how I would suggest that it'd go. I imagine it'd just turn into Signs.
Yeah, well, Signs is interesting, yeah, because it's different country, different age, more commercial filmmaker, someone who clearly were like aiming for a big. You get the sense with this. I bet Bergman doesn't care if anyone watches this. He obviously just made it for himself. Like,
well, like I imagine this cost him like a week's wage to make. Like,
well, I heard the way Bergman managed to make his film. Someone asked him like, these are incredibly uncommercial. Like, who gives you money for this? And he said like, look, they cost like $200,000 to make. They're all shot on my own island, which he owns an island, basically.
Of course he does.
Yeah, well, he shoots on an island if he owns it. Maybe he just lives there. But yeah, basically, shoots on an island. They don't take like more than a couple of weeks to make or something. And yeah, like just incredibly cheap to make. He releases them, they get acclaim, and they make just enough to break to make money. They're all probably funded by the Swedish government anyway. Like they have a big enough audience, I imagine. Where what's $200,000? Like you only need like 100,000 people to see it. He has a big enough name for that. Like I think. Like,
yeah. I don't think I don't think that there's sort of like the like obviously the cheapness of the film does kind of shine through in spots and that with it all being a majority of it being in like 3 locations.
Yeah, it's pretty much just the sort of schoolhouse looking place.
Yeah, there's like this
later, the church and the outside.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
There's definitely not sort of a lot happening like with it, but yeah, I don't think that really enters into it that much though.
No, he knows his limitations. I think. Like, it's not something that tries to do too much on a limited budget. Like, yeah. It really works for sort of what he's trying to do, like he saved money on having he didn't have to hire an editor. He probably just shot it all.
Yeah, it was all in camera editing.
yeah. But no, like I think he was like it's such an old way of making films as well, though. Like limited budget, small audience, no expectation they're going to be huge or anything. Just they're going to play on art house circuits and he gets to go again. Like
yeah. I think that these sort of films do still exist and.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't even say that though this is like a particularly successful film even for its time. Like I can't imagine a lot of people saw it. I would say that there are potentially hundreds of like sort of small indie films that exist.
Yeah.
That are very similar to this and that no one sees because why would you?
I suppose the difference is, though, Bergman is, at this point, he's already won the Best Foreign Film Award a couple of times, I think, for Seventh Seal and definitely the Virgin Spring. Virgin Spring's a great one. It's his attempt to do, like, a rape revenge film.
All right.
Yeah, it was actually remade as The Last House on the Left.
Nope.
It's a Wes Craven film.
All right, okay.
Yeah, so basically they remade it as, like a 70s slasher film that was banned.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, it's a really weird mix of him doing stuff like this and also, Max von Sydow is like, why has God, forsaken me? Then his daughter gets raped and he goes like, now I must kill people.
But if we get back to what we were saying before about...
what I was getting to though was, the distribution system was different then. You had to shoot on film. Like, just alone for the film for this, you're probably looking at $20,000. To buy and the equipment and stuff, and to hire all the crew. Like I think there would have just been so little, fewer films. This probably would have gotten a wider release than something like this film now would never have made it to England. It probably just maybe Bergman had, someone of his stature had it would, But if this was a new film, it just would never have been. You know, they wouldn't have spent the money to translate it into English. I don't think. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. Who knows? But there's still like a lot of sort of there's still a bunch of like foreign sort of indie films that do make it like and do get a like decent release and stuff like that. Like Under the Shadows. I don't know whether you've ever seen
Kiwi film.
No, not What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, right, okay.
Under the Shadow, which is an Iranian film.
Yeah.
Like got a wide release on Netflix.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. If anyone's got Netflix, I think it's still on there. Definitely check it out. It's great. Don't worry that it's from Iran. It's a really good film. But I think that they still like these films that are low budget and they still exist, and I still think that they do get seen and whatnot. I think that what you were saying is that I suppose that this would have been more of a novelty at the time.
Yeah, I think that like the difference is back then, like there would have been fewer films that were released because they like price of entry would have been much higher. With the fact that you'd had to shoot on film.
Yeah.
And there was probably still more of like state funding of film. Probably still is in Europe. We're recording this as an Australian and a Brit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just think because of that, like that more films would have been like put into. But I suppose it's an interesting one though, because you would have had that, but also you wouldn't have had stuff like Netflix. It wouldn't have had, less people would have. It would have been a more niche audience. You would have been looking at self-consciously intellectual types, so more niche in that way. You know, I can just buy the DVD of this for like a $5 or watch it illegally if it needs to be. But yeah, like you can do that. You don't have to, go and trek to London to see it. Is what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would probably have been seen by maybe. It's a difficult one to say. You'd have had a niche for it would have existed then, because it was so rare, as you say, a rarity. But also less people may have seen it because of that. There's pros and cons to both approaches, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's different, not better, not worse.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, I was just thinking as well. The other thing that you could sort of look at is the sort of 90s sort of indie film scene and that sort of thing. Like I think a lot of films in that sort of era would have been comparable to this. Like we've brought him up a few times, but our mate Kevin Smith, like if you look at Clerks, that was like $30,000.
Yeah, just basically nothing.
Yeah, basically nothing. Shot in one location. Yeah, one location. And it's just a story about whatever's going on, and this is kind of I would say very similar as well in this, is that it is just whatever's going on. Yeah. Like it's just this person. It's just telling a story in the day of this person. It just happens to be a really bad day for this particular guy.
Yeah.
I think I don't. Yeah, I agree with you. It's not. It doesn't make it better or worse or anything like that. It's just a different thing. Yeah. And I can also see where a lot of these sort of, the films that we're talking about, where it is very few locations, more character driven, that sort of thing. Yeah, where they come from in this, in the later tradition of the sort of 90s independent film and that sort of thing. I think people like overly sentimentalize stuff like this, like not the films themselves. The films I think usually hold up, but like people who sentimentalize, like, oh yeah, like people respected film and all. It's like, what you mean is a bunch of like arty wankers would go to London and see it in a festival and like rave about it in like a magazine that no one read. Exactly. And that's what you mean, like that. You just, obviously the best stuff is what survives from that era, like there must be millions of pre-exploitation films or there are non-exploitation films, like. Well, I would say, what's that one? Manos, The Hands of Fate. That'd be made about the same time as this.
I think that's 70s, isn't it? Like,
is it? I thought it was 60s.
Oh, right, okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was shot in the 60s and then, like, by the time they like got it together, it was 70s. But like again, that's still not like it's. I would still say it's about the same time.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that I think the same conditions would have existed
Back then than there is now. Yeah.
Oh no.
So back then in both Manos and Winterlight, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's the good and the bad, and I suppose in both circumstances, even now, the really bad gets noticed, and the really good gets noticed. Yeah. Everything that's middling is sort of just ends up fading into obscurity.
Yeah, and if this came out now and got onto like Netflix or something, you could argue, maybe Bergman wouldn't have made as much money as he probably might have done, but a bigger audience would have seen it probably, and
yeah, but yeah, I imagine you'd also have what we were talking about before, where it was just people going, "Oh, this is shit."
Yeah, but I feel like even in the 60s, I bet there's like, obviously you wouldn't be able to write a review on Letterboxd or something, but yeah. I bet there were people who watched this and then just went, "Oh, just that fucking Bergman guy again." Yeah. Like,
I don't even know why I bothered.
Yeah.
I should have gone and seen...
It's a mad, 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 mad world.
Oh, yeah, I should have gone and seen The Greatest Story Ever Told. That's got better religious themes. And came out roughly the same time.
Yeah. But, I suppose that's as interesting as the film itself, which, as I say, like, there's just so little metaphor in it as well, which I find, obviously that, it's I think that is a good thing in its case. Like, it is just all there in sort of, like, it just portrays it there. Like, it's all, like, there. But yeah, probably maybe one of the, I think this either this or Four Lions is like objectively the best film we've seen. Like,
oh no, Four Lions is better than this film.
Yeah, so yeah, Four Lions and then this film.
Yeah, like this film, I really enjoy it, but well, see, this is the thing.
Enjoy it, yeah.
No, this is the thing. I didn't enjoy it. It was good, and like I understood what was what the filmmaker was aiming for, but yeah, ultimately I didn't have a good time. Yeah, it was pretty awful.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's not something you're going to put on a Friday night or something. Like,
no.
You have to be in the mood for self-reflection and
Let's invite everyone around. Let's have a few beers and let's watch Winterlight.
Well, let's do what we did: a triple bill of The Devils, Joshua and the Promised Land, and
I'm so glad we did Joshua and the Promised Land in between. I feel like after The Devils, if I had have just watched Winter's Light directly afterwards, I'd probably have just walked into a canal.
Yeah, Joshua and the Promised Land. That really did save our lives. Like,
yeah, it was a bright little funny piece of hope in a dim, dark world.
So would you say we've covered quite a lot of films? Would you say we're quite a broad church?
I'm cutting that out.